Hi, this is Dr. Dave, and in this video we're going to continue working on your project by adding another technology assignment. Let's kind of remember where we were after the last technology assignment. In that technology assignment we created 3 columns here. The first 2 columns we used to create a graph of cost versus units, and we saw that as the number of units produced increased, so did the cost. Then we went ahead and created a 3rd column, which was the column B divided by the column A, and we made a graph of column A and column C. That resulted in the average cost as a function of toasters, and we saw that as we produce more and more toasters, presumably we're getting more and more efficient, so you see that the average cost per toaster is dropping. So we're going to go ahead and add to this, and what we're going to end up with is a sheet that looks a lot like this one. So we're going to go ahead and on our cost of toasters we're going to put some kind of a model here. One of them will definitely be a linear model, one will be a quadratic, one will probably be a cubic, and the fourth one might be an exponential. But each member of your team is going to do a different model. Once we have that model, we'll go ahead and graph an average cost function based on that model. We'll put a column D in here, and we'll end up with a graph that looks like this, where the red points are the corresponding average cost function, the blue points are the actual data. To see what's going on overall, we'll create another function down here, and that is the actual average cost function, but over a much wider range of values. Here it runs from 0 to 2,000. And you can see that that one's also dropping off. So let's go ahead and start working towards this sheet. So I'm going to go to my technology assignment that I did before, the one that I'm pretty happy with and it's been graded. You'll find the feedback inside of your Google folder here. And I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to click on this little triangle here and say duplicate. So I'm going to leave Tech 1 here, and this is going to become my Tech 2. So I'm going to double click. I'm going to go ahead and write T2 here, and I'm going to make all my modifications right here. So the first thing I need to do is I need to take this, and I'm going to move it over a little bit. And then I'm going to move this other graph over. So all I'm doing is I'm clicking on the graph, holding down the mouse button, and dragging it over. That was pretty simple. Now I need to go ahead and I need to put a trend line on here. And I'm going to do a linear trend line. One of your team members is going to have to do that. But every other team member is going to have to do a different trend line, a different type of regression. So if I just go ahead and double click on the graph, it's going to open up my chart editor. And remember, we have all these different options here. I'm going to go to Series and go down to where it says Trend Line. And typically by default, it puts a linear trend line on here. But you can come down to here and put on exponential, polynomial, power series, all sorts of other ones. You need to have one different one for each member of your team, and certainly one of them should be linear. So the next thing I need to do is make sure that I have the equation on here, and to do that I'm going to go down to where it says label and say use equation, and then I'm going to show the r-squared value. Remember, the r-squared indicates how good a fit it is. The closer it is to 1, the better the fit. So here I see my equation sitting right here, and that's what I'm going to use to create my average cost function. And I'm going to put that over here in column D. So I don't need my chart editor anymore, so I'm going to close it. At the top of column D, I'm going to put average cost function. So I'm going to go to D2, and I'm going to go ahead and put in the formula. So I'll type equals parentheses 4.869 times the X value, which is the toasters, plus 5,148.426. In the parentheses, so that's my cost function, and now I'm going to divide it by the number of units. So this is like doing C of X divided by X. I'll go ahead and decrease the number of decimal places. And now I'll put that in each one of the cells below. So these are the values of the cost function based on the model that we have over here. These were the actual data values. So what I want to do now is I want to go ahead and add those data values onto here. So I'm going to double click on the graph, open up the chart editor. I'm going to go over to data, and I'm going to go ahead and add a series. So now I need to tell it where the series is, so I'm going to go over to here, start at the top of column D, scroll down. So I'm holding the mouse button down, dragging it, click OK. So now that should be inside of there. Let's go ahead and take a look at it. There are my data values. They're in a different color here, which is kind of useful. I could even use a different symbol by going over to Customize and then going down and looking at Series and say maybe I want to do this as a triangle or something else. It really doesn't matter. Here it did it to all series, but if I only wanted to do it to one of them, I could click on that one. I could go back to my average cost here and make those circles. But it's up to you how you want to do that. But you should use different colors so you can see the values of the average cost function, see that it's kind of following the overall trend here, and then you can see the data nearby. So the last thing I want to do for this particular assignment is I actually want to see the entire average cost function all by itself. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to close down my chart editor. I'm going to go down to A21 and I'm going to type in units. But now these units are not going to be the data value units. They're just going to be a bunch of kind of random values. So we're going to start it at 100, go down to 200, so I'm going to click, scroll, grab the fill bar, and I'm going to drag this down. Let's see how far it went. Oh, down to 2,000. That's just about perfect. Now what I need to do is to put the average cost function in here. And now I have to go ahead and type the formula in here, but now I'm going to be using these X values instead of the ones that I had above. So I'm going to scroll so I can see my formula here again. So it's going to be equals, parentheses, 4.869 times the X value, the 100, plus 5,148.426 in the parentheses, slash for divide, and then I'm going to divide by that X value again. And once I have that in there, I'll go ahead and click on the cell, grab the fill bar here and drag it down, and there are all the corresponding values. I think I'll lower the number of decimal places too, just to make it look a little bit nicer. So now it's just a matter of graphing this. So I'll click on A21. I'm holding the mouse button down, drag down to B41, insert chart. It went ahead and actually picked the right chart for me. That's kind of nice. I wanted a line chart, and it labeled this thing pretty much correctly. The only thing I might change here is I might go ahead and add on to the fact that it is in dollars per toaster, or I might go ahead and change up here that this is just the average cost function. Let me go ahead and do that. I could double click here and I could say dollars per toaster. Don't think I need a legend on here since there's just one thing. So I'm going to double click on that and tell it position none. And now we're starting to have a pretty nice looking graph here. The one thing you'll notice though is there's a few kinks in here. And that's because these data values were kind of widely spaced. I could put more data values in there, but there's actually an easier way to do it. Let me go ahead and double click on that. Go up to Customize, Chart Style, and click on Smooth. And what that does is it just smooths out the graph a little bit, makes it a little bit nicer. So close my chart editor. One of the things I'll be looking at is your average cost function. Is it labeled correctly? Does it have a title? And then the other one is I'll go up here, I'll check your trend line here. Remember, each member of your team should have a different one. And then I'll also be checking to make sure that the cost function that was formed from that trend line goes fairly close to the data.